Times Influence Initiative.
Hello and welcome to the 4th edition of Times Network's India Economic Conclave, presented by Capital First, Partner in Progress, Gabon's Special Economic Zone and powered by Raven. Now, last week we saw excerpts from a thought-provoking conversation on the convergence of various technologies with the Executive Vice President of Business Development at Microsoft, Peggy Johnson, and an insightful session on blockchain revolution with the CEO of the Tapscott Group, Don Tapscott.
I do think there's this theme out there that technology is maybe sometimes too disruptive.
Yes.
And I think you really have to take a step back and say, you don't really want to slow that down.
The internet is entering a second era. For 40 years, we've had an internet of information. Now we're getting an internet of value.
The next session was on a very pertinent topic, bridging the gender deficit. So how can we help women rise with India? Who better to speak on this topic than someone who has rewritten the rules on her own terms and has shined in every field that she has been a part of, the Minister of Textiles and Information and Broadcasting, Smriti Zubin Irani, along with a woman who has excelled in a bastion dominated by men, the Chairman of Max Financial Services, Naina Lal Kidwai, in a conversation taken forward by Times Now's Navika Kumar.
Smriti Irani, I want to ask you about the latest controversy, or rather the latest issue that both the BJP and the Congress have been involved in. Let's look at the numbers first. We are all talking about the 2019 elections, and in 2009, the Congress got 11 crore votes. In 2014, the BJP got 17.2 crore votes of Indians. Why is this important? This is important because in July 2017, there were 24 crore users of Facebook. Now, these 24 crore users of Facebook, 70% of whom are below the age of 25, could actually influence voters. Is that why there is this battle about who's influencing all these data users?
When we look at the aspects of news relating to Cambridge Analytica, many people say this is just an urban phenomena or an urban debate. Let's look at it deeper. One of the charges and one of the conversations that I saw on your channel was about using a caste-based census and then arriving upon a strategy. Now, if somebody reads the Indian Penal Code, you will find that sections like 295 talk about punishing those people who try to create conflict between different communities, classes and castes of people through any action deliberately. So here is a political party that is so desperate to retain power that it will analyze the castes of every voter and then engineer a communicative strategy so that it either instills fear or it instigates you to vote for a particular person because they belong to a particular community, or vote for a political party because they would stand for something that that particular human being perceives to be justified because they belong to a particular community or a caste. This is a deeper malaise. This is a deeper challenge.
But surely, Ms. Irani, you don't take this country to be naive. It's the BJP, the BJP look at candidates selection based on caste? Doesn't the BJP look at caste leaders? Let me complete my question.
Why I'm intervening here is for this particular reason, that this is not about selection of candidates. This is about a communication strategy. A communication strategy that is built to influence you as an individual and your mindset. And that mindset is not retained or restricted to only that one vote. Then it becomes a part of your everyday life. It becomes a part of your everyday communication or interaction with others in your community. That is where the danger lies.
Naina Lal Kidwai, you think this dividend, demographic dividend that we are talking about, these youngsters, and these youngsters using data analytics, using data products, apps, these are the new target groups of political parties, and do you take Smriti Irani's explanation that they are different from the party that's being alleged to have used a negative campaign?
On the demographic dividend and the youth of today, if data, and without getting into the political discourse here, if data can be used to pull youngsters in to recognizing the role they have, to make them politically astute, the reach out, whether it's through social media or analysis of data, so that the reach that happens in ways that they understand and the language that they embrace. And that pulls them into being political citizens and exercising their power of vote. Then we'll have a true demographic dividend. Women voting and young people voting. And because the youngsters establish our future, and women are very critical in that voting exercise, women exercising the vote for themselves, not through influence of husbands and family members. So I would say that that's very critical. And that really brings me to the last economic survey, pink cover, fabulous. $700 billion, 43 lakh crores is the number that the economic survey puts out for India to add to its GDP if men and women can be equal. And it's right there in the next couple of years if we can get it right in terms of the gender gap. And then the important one in terms of representation in Parliament. And you've had a wonderful exposure to the articulate and lively Smriti Irani, and who has been a fabulous minister. Why do we have 12% only representation of women in the Lok Sabha, 10% in the Rajya Sabha? And India, which allowed equal vote for women in our constitution, Switzerland only moved to women's voice in 1980, after us. And yet our representation is worse. We have to do something about this.
The women's reservation bill is gathering dust.
Many people presume that you need reservation only for those who are possibly from rural India, possibly do not have access to education, and hence they do not have an affirmative course of getting an equal footing with men. Ironically, even I became, for the first time, the National Secretary of BJP when my male president of the party had reservation brought in for women within the organization. So let it not be misconstrued that if we want reservation, it is only because women feel they are disenfranchised or feel that I'm from, let's say, a poorer strata of society. There are many well-read, professional women who might not get a chance if not for that reservation. But when we're talking about data, there is a lot of negative connotation now with the word data. It's not as if technology always brings discord. Technology, when used productively, can help building societies also. It depends on who and how uses that technology for what end.
But let me come in on communication here. Because if you look at the discourse, and I saw a survey which said 79% of Indians believe women should have more positions of power in government. And yet, it hasn't come to pass. And on the other side, you have a Haryana where for a convicted rapist, you get 3 years less prison sentence than a cow slaughterer. There's something sadly amiss here.
I would disagree on that one, because though crime against women in terms of data can be looked upon from various age strata, and I think it's extremely inhuman to deliberate on any data as such, we've also had the same state make leaps and bounds progress on female feticide and stopping doctors from actually killing the girl child in the womb. And we've seen the female to male ratio going up in that very same state, where progressively administration ensures. So it is not that we are bereft of challenges. We never have been. What is needed is a government or governance which says that together with society, yes, let us stem certain challenges that we face, female feticide being one of them. I think what is now evident is more and more women are no longer afraid of coming out and speaking about crimes against women, which was not earlier the norm. Many people were afraid. At least thankfully now, women do not turn away when they want to speak, and neither does society. And I'm really grateful for that change, particularly. That they come out, they speak, they say there will be somebody in the media who will highlight my plight, and there will be people in the country who will stand by me nonetheless.
You're also a mother, as you said, of 2 children. How could you put up with paper leaks, CBSE paper leaks, and re-examinations if it happened to your children?
I have been the HRD minister of this country, and I'm very much a part of this government. The current HRD minister has spoken about it. There is an investigation which is underway. As a parent, I'm sure the day I step down as a minister, I can free for all have a conversation. But I will only say this, that my best wishes and my prayers and my blessings with all the children, that includes me, I hope, and my kids. And I'm sure they'll come out of this crisis.
And on Cambridge Analytica, would there be an investigation less than just calling for Zuckerberg rhetorically, or an FIR to be registered?
That as the I&B minister, I'm aware that there is a policy in broadcasting for television. There is a policy for the print media, and it's time that India had a policy for digital broadcasting and digital news. And very soon, I shall be making some announcements with regards to that.
All right. Thank you very much, Naina Lal Kidwai and Smriti Irani, for this wonderful session. Thank you very much for being as candid as you did.
It's time now for a short break, but coming up on the other side is a fireside chat between the CEO of Niti Aayog, Amitabh Kant, and the worldwide managing director for Bain Consulting, Manny Maceda. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
For many of our global companies, the priority of how to serve, participate in the great hope of the Indian consumer.
Welcome back to the India Economic Conclave, presented by Capital First, Partner in Progress, Gabon Special Economic Zone, and powered by Raven. Now, the next session is crucial because it impacts us all. After all, in a fast-paced world defined by automation and machine learning, we should be aware of what will be the impact of this new technology on jobs and if it will further inflate income inequality. To talk to us more on the future of jobs is the worldwide managing director of Bain Consulting, Manny Maceda, followed by an interaction with the CEO of Niti Aayog, Amitabh Kant.
Most of us grew up in a period we call the Great Moderation, when everything was stable. From the 80s to the global financial crisis, geopolitics were stable, interest rates were stable, and you could actually have a macro issues arguably were not that important. We're in a different world going forward. We'll call it the Great Transformation. And because of that, we want companies and countries to think about what does this mean. India has an opportunity in this decade in front to really project power with strong bilateral ties around the system, an increasing role in global politics, even an increasing role in soft power around the world. For the last 50 years, really, in developed countries, the growth of the labor force has been about 1/3 of GDP growth. In the US, it's been half. That growth in the labor force is now actually a thing of the past. Many countries will be experiencing negative or flat labor growth. And so India is one of the few places that still has a growing labor economy. And so if you are countries like the United States or even China, the path to increase GDP growth is not more workers, it's more productivity. And so with that, I'll finish the complete remarks and I think invite our distinguished guest, Mr. Amitabh Kant.
Government has carried out some major structural reforms. One is that it's tried to make India very easy and simple. India's jumped up about 42 positions in the World Bank Ease of Doing Business. We're seeing a lot of innovation taking place, a lot of great combination of innovation, technology, skills, great frugal engineering which has enabled great product innovation from India for the rest of the world.
You know, as an advisor to many global investors, I'd actually would very much endorse that, Amitabh, that companies are looking for great places to invest, and they look at it as a combination of sectors that can grow, that are important. Education and health in Asia are actually both very high investment thesis areas for the global investors, and both of those directly go to the topic we mentioned of it builds a skilled and healthy workforce, and so we definitely see that, and global investors have a chance to pick any market in the world where they choose to deploy, and so we're seeing the success points.
What more can India do to drive growth, and how do you sustain growth over a long period of time? What more structural reforms need to be carried out?
You know, when we talk about both global CEOs, and we do work here, I'd actually also like to call out that there's very few markets left in the world where a global company will care enough about that particular country. They'll say, we need a specific strategy for this country. And India is one of them. And so for many of our global companies, the priority of how to serve, participate in the great hope of the Indian consumer as they get online, which comes very directly to the topic we talked about, because you don't create a consumer class, you don't create a middle class without jobs. You know, without jobs. If you look at one of the charts earlier, the reason there are large middle classes in developed countries, a basic manufacturing job pays $30 or $40 an hour. Well, then you can create consumption out of that. So for global companies saying, what is the key to that? And are you making all the reforms? The other thing I will say that participating in India now as a consultancy, the majority of our clients here are now Indian companies, and that's a meaningful pivot and change in what we view as the maturity of a market. You know, when a company like Bain enters a market for the first time, you might do a country study for a multinational, you know, like you know, the traditional ones, a Coca-Cola, an Amazon, an Intel. But here, the client base are Indian companies that are both doing well in their domestic markets, and so they're not the challenges for them are not as different anymore. They need to transform. They need to be agile. They need to be enabled digitally. They need to think about both their domestic strategy and ultimately their global or regional strategy. And we actually see that's happening, which is why we've built a vibrant business in your country, and I'm always excited to come visit.
And one of the key things we are doing in India is to start these new tinkering labs in school, where we are providing robots, 3D printers, Internet of Things, all at the school level from class 6 onwards. This is the biggest disruption ever happening in any country's educational system. And this would really enable young students to get used to a lot of new technology as they go along. And I think this would eventually greatly benefit in terms of higher skills and higher paid jobs.
Yeah, I think the theme we've chatted about, and we didn't even rehearse this, so it's sort of there's consistency. Education and healthcare are both key enablers. The jobs are higher skilled, and so if you look at the net effect, some of the downstream possible implications for inequality. What's happening with these higher skilled jobs, at least in other markets, is they are higher income. They are also accumulating the returns as these jobs get created to a smaller and smaller part of the population. You know, because it's the capital that gets concentrated. So one question I'd have for you is part of that pattern, and we're seeing this all around the world. In the U.S., the top 10% of the workforce makes 50% of the income and has about 75% of the wealth. Do you see policies as well in India to create more wealth distribution consistent with the evolution of the jobs?
So one of, a huge emphasis on bringing in equity, and one of the key things this government is doing is to look at 115 backward districts. We don't call them backwards. We call them aspirational districts, and to drive them on education, health, nutrition, infrastructure, agriculture production, so that they really become the true drivers of growth in India. And tremendous amount of political and administrative will behind this entire program to drive both growth and job enhancement in India through this program. So Manny, it's been wonderful talking to you, and may Bain continue to grow and prosper in India. Such a pleasure talking to you.
That's a wrap from this episode of the India Economic Conclave, but we'll be back next week with a special session with the big change agents, where the secretaries from a multitude of government departments will talk to us about their journey of solving some of India's biggest problems. Goodbye for now, and many thanks for watching.
Direct port entry, it is now about 80%. Actually, we want to take it to 100%. So we are working with the Customs Department. They have made about 550 exporters and importers into authorized economic operator.
There is a huge amount of unskilled raw labor in the form of school dropouts, in the form of kids who need training. The question that one needs to then ask is, why is there not a natural market for skill acquisition in India?
A Times Influence Initiative.